Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can we please stand? May we bow our heads and say the Our Father prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Can you put your right hands on your breast, please, and repeat the pledge? I pledge my allegiance to the flag and to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for which it stands, one people, united in love and service. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. I want to welcome everyone here this evening, and in particular, the leader of the Progressive Liberal Party. The leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, QC, and Mr. Chester Cooper, who is the deputy leader of our party. So please, let's welcome them. We have apologies for Mr. Picewell Forbes, MP, and Mrs. Glenys Hannah Martin is on her way. I've just spoken to her, so she'll be joining us shortly. I want to also recognize the presence of Senator Michael Dovell, who is sitting over there to my left. First of all, let me formally welcome you to this module for aspirant candidates and those who are simply interested in public policy issues. This is the first of a number of these events that will be certainly annually, and in the shorter term, there will be another one held in Freeport near the end of the summer. I hope that you find this all instructive. There was a decision taken by the Leadership Council and supported by the National General Council of the party that in order to apply for a candidacy of the Progressive Liberal Party, you had to have obtained a certificate that you had gone through this module. It's not a test, it's experiential. And so we hope that the experience enriches your understanding of the party and its policies. And I'd also like to recognize the presence of our former Minister of Tourism, Stobie Wilshcombe, who's sitting at the back. Ladies and gentlemen, some housekeeping matters. For those of you who are not familiar with Gambia House and the Lyndon Pindling Center, the restrooms are at the back, both men and women at the back door. The exits there are three exits. There at the door through which you came, and there's an exit here and an exit at the back over at the east. So in case those have to be used. There is a slight change on Saturday. Mr. Philip Smith will be doing that on his own, and Mr. Jerome Fitzgerald will move up 1 hour to join the members of the campaign team of the members of Parliament to discuss the campaign. So that he will come, Jerome Fitzgerald will join them at 9:45 to 11:15, and Mr. Philip Smith will be therefore doing that on his own. The Secretary General of the party is Ms. Barbara Cartwright. You will see her, a wonderful silver-haired lady who will be moving in and out. So any issues in the short term, like where's the water, where are the facilities, can I use the phone, that sort of thing, she would either be at the table at the front or moving about the body. So you might want to identify who she is and get to know her. So those are the housekeeping details. There's Barbara Cartwright right there at the start, at the door. And we want to welcome Mrs. Hannah Martin, who should be sitting up at the top here. So let's welcome her, please. Now I want to say that this is not just for people who want to become candidates for the Progressive Liberal Party, although the council made the decision that it is a prerequisite for applying to. So if you have not gone through this module, any application for candidacy will not be accepted by the Candidates Committee. And the persons who've been accepted from that position are the 4 sitting members of Parliament, 3 of whom are here, and apologies for Mr. Forbes. But it is also for anyone who's interested in public policy and in knowing the history of the Progressive Liberal Party and how we came to be where we are and what we do today. It's also for those who hope to be appointed to the Senate, for party executives, those who hope to be poll workers or run campaigns and be campaign coordinators, who wish to serve on statutory boards, including there are a number of boards that, like the Water and Sewerage Corporation, for example, that the government has to appoint people to. There are tons of these boards, and so it would be instructive for those who wish to serve on those boards, and perhaps most importantly, those who wish to run for office at the local government level, because it appears that, well, whether these folk do it or whether we do it, it's going to be coming for New Providence local government. And there's already local government in the Family Islands, and those are elected positions. So all of the business of knowing how the organs of government operate will be part of what we hope to get out of this exercise today. Some people had asked about reading material. We had published a list of reading material, and I think the leader is going to try and see if he can arrange a small library up here in case those who haven't actually been able to get a hold of some of these books. But the recommended the recommended reading would be The History of the Bahamas by Michael Creighton, History of the Bahamas by Michael Creighton, which is just a general history of the Bahamas. My Political Memoirs by Sir Henry Taylor. The Biography of Sir Clifford Darling. The Biography of Sir Lyndon Pinling, which is also by Michael Creighton. The book Put on More Speed by Sir Clement Maynard. The book Faith That Moved the Mountain, which is written by Sir Randall Fox. The book What Manner of Man Is This by Sir Orville Turnquest. And the reason why I included that is because he has the entire address of Dr. Claudius Walker to the Duke of Windsor at Government House on behalf of the black people of the country during that time. Breaching the Gate, which is the newest work by Sean McQueenie, and Sean McQueenie will be leading the history of the party tomorrow. And available also be the Commission of Inquiry reports into the Burma Road riots of 1942 and the Select Committee report by the House of Assembly, which is headed by Stafford Sands, both of which were published in 1943. There were commissions of inquiry in 1967 on casino gambling, in 1970 on the city of Freeport, and in 1984 on drug trafficking in the Bahamas. And it might be helpful also if you actually get a copy of the Constitution of the Bahamas, so that's the basic law. So that's the list. I'll have them printed so that you'll be able to do so. May I say, by way of background, that back in 1979, with the assistance of a bursary from the Bahamas government and a bursary from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, arranged by Sir Lyndon Pinling, I was dispatched to the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, where I studied for a degree in public administration. I achieved that in 1980, and it was at that time that I saw what happened every year after there were congressional elections in the United States. The Kennedy School would sponsor groups of new congressmen to come to the university, and they would run them through 2 to 3 weeks of prep work on how the Congress works and how the organs of the government work. I've been waiting for a long time to be able to implement something similar in the Bahamas. And it has been tried in various ways. So I'm hoping that this is an exercise which is instructive in that direction, because it not only grounds you in the information about the way things work in our country and the history of the country, but it also gets you to understand the people that you will have to be working with going forward, because presumably everyone in this room is going to end up being in some position of being a public policy maker going forward. And one of the things that makes public policy successful, notwithstanding the modern age and all the modern toys we have, is you have to know people and you have to develop relationships. And so that's one of the things that going through the module should actually do. Then we had the experience last year of the outturn of the general election. And following the outturn of the general election, understandably, people were dispirited. One of the points I tried to make immediately after the election was this: you can ascribe all kinds of reasons to why we lost, but why ever we lost, and to this extent it's immaterial, what we know is that life is cyclical, and that in the game of politics, half the game is just to be in the game, because whatever happens, it eventually turns around in your favor. And the question is, are you going to be prepared to take advantage when the opportunity comes? And what a difference 12 months makes. Last year, people said after the first voice note that I sent out, saying, look, just get up and start working, and don't give me this rubbish about, the PLP is finished and all this other nonsense. Just get to work, because it has to turn at some point. So a year later now, we see how difficult it is to manage a huge majority. And when you come to the history of our party, Sean McQueenie will run you through the last time that the Progressive Liberal Party, then being in office, experienced a similar thing to what we see happening today. And that is when the Public Disclosure Bill came for the vote in the House of Assembly in August of 1976. And the fallout from that experience, which led to the dismissal of a parliamentary secretary, of the chairman of a board, the same circumstances that we see now. And the next year, well, the speaker's untouchable because the speaker can't be removed from office, although he was involved in that. And if you want a nice summary of this, just get Eddie Minnis's song "Show and Tell." It tells the whole story of what happened in 1976 in one verse. So it was fascinating to me to see the youngsters, as soon as this stuff happened, texting back and forth about why is this and why is that, because this is all new to them and exciting to them. So it happened before. And you'll be able to compare events today with those events of the past. The PLP has been noted in this country as the champion of the underclass. When you come to discuss the 1942 Burma Road riots and the underlying causes of those riots, you will see that the people were immediately concerned about the disparity between foreign workers and Bahamian workers and what they were paid for the construction of what is now the Lyndon Pindling International Airport. But when the Commission of Inquiry reported, they said there were underlying causes, social causes. And it is the construct that we face today is one which was invented by two people, Sir Randall Fox and Dame Doris Johnson. Dame Doris Johnson wrote The Quiet Revolution, Sir Randall Fox wrote Faith That Moved a Mountain. And they traced the beginning of the modern political movement of our country back to the Burma Road riots in 1942. Randall Fox was 13 years old when it took place, and Lyndon Pindling was 12 years old. Lyndon Pindling told me that when the riot took place, he was a student at the Western Junior School. And they closed school because the riot had taken place. And they learned that the riot started because there was a Coca-Cola truck parked on the corner, and that provided the fuel for the riot, because someone took a bottle off the back of the truck, smashed the windows, and the riot started. The riot was in fact started by someone named Leonard Green Storr from Mangrove Key. I just discovered that So we've been trying to find, whether he still has descendants around, but that, and his testimony you can find in the notes of the Commission of Inquiry. But that is what Randall Fox and Doris Johnson said. That was the beginning of the modern political era, because judging from that, there was rapid advance to the formation of the Progressive Liberal Party, all the way up to majority rule, and then independence, and where we are today. And we have also been the champions of fighting racism in the Bahamas, because the jump between 1834, when slavery was abolished, and when majority rule came in 1967, was several generations. And you just have to look at, in stark relief, at the pictures of the cabinet before 1967 and the picture of the cabinet after 1967 to see the point of what people are saying in our history. So the PLP has always fought racism, and it has also always fought for the empowerment of the common man. There is another point which you will appreciate after having looked at the history of our country, and this comes out in an essay written by Dr. Gail Saunders, who looks at the social history and development of our country, and what the Progressive Liberal Party did for the development of our country in that direction. She did an analysis of how people used to live on the islands of the Bahamas in the 19th and early 20th century. And what you basically have is a country spread across 24, 25, 26 islands, all in isolated settlements. And even though these settlements were just miles apart, there were no roads, there was no adequate transportation, so people lived in isolation. They knew they were in the Bahamas, of course, and Nassau was at the center, but it was very difficult to travel and to communicate with from settlement to settlement. The PLP changed all of that, and this is something that I just came to appreciate in this essay that she wrote. When 1967 came, and Carl Bethel was talking today about how the PLP started deficit financing, and you know that if you don't have deficit financing and you don't have borrowing, the price is no development. So we embarked on a program of development of our country. We built the bridges, built the roads. West End got its highway from Freeport all the way to West End to Freeport, major highway, the Abaco Highway. The roads in Andros were put in, the bridges connecting all of the bights, because Andros is in fact a series of islands, so all the bridges were put in. And what that did was it connected the whole country. And we finished that work, in fact, in the last PLP administration but one, when Bradley Roberts, as the minister responsible for telecommunications, tied the entire country together by way of cable. So that the whole country is tied now by one cable, and that was that fiber optic that was investment by the Progressive Liberal Party. So nation building is not just about the Constitution and the House of Assembly and so on. It's actually physically connecting us together, and the PLP did that. Now when you go to Andros, you'll see that, or Exuma, or Little Abaco, which is now connected by road between Great Abaco and Little Abaco. You'll see that what work was done, and we are now at the point where there has to be refurbishment of the infrastructure. So all of this will come out. Know that racism is not dead. Just a few months ago, Eileen Karen compared the leader of our party to Topsy, the black girl in Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Don't forget delightful.
Yeah. Delightful Topsy is how she described it. And I was reading the Tribune story, and in the book, her father she was describing a conversation with the two of them, and they talked about how the colored people were so ungrateful for what Sir Etienne had done. The Nassau Guardian says that the PLP is trying to sneak its way back into power. Sneak its way. This is a public party that does everything in the public domain, that has public meetings every week, that makes no, doesn't say that we are trying to, we say openly we are working toward the next election to become the government of the Bahamas, but the Nassau Guardian says the PLP is trying to sneak its way back into power. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of you this evening here are here to sneak back into power in open sight. I want to welcome you all, and I hope you find this instructive, and that you will learn something about more than you already know about the PLP and its contribution to nation building. In a very real sense, the leaders of our party created the nation Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And there's a line in a hymn which I always say, we are now the minority party supposedly. And that hymn line says, the faithful few fought bravely to save the nation's life. And that is what we embarked upon beginning here this evening. So thank you all for coming, and I'd like to now ask the Member of Parliament for Angliston and our former Minister of Transport if she can come and say a few words. All right, thank you. She doesn't want to run.